Hi, I'm here today with Robert Shatterly. Hi, Rob.
Hi, Lesley, how are you?
I'm glad you're here. We were also supposed to have Dud Hendricks here from Veterans for Peace, but he's ill. So it's up to us to carry on without him. And the reason we're here is to speak about The People Speak, a film that we are going to be showing here on July 14th in the studio at Community Television Network. And it's about people through history who've made a difference by speaking out. And that's something that you have close to your heart, I know, with your paintings, The Americans Who Tell the Truth. And so you're involved in this, and tell me why this spoke to you.
Well, for several reasons. One is that many of the people that Howard Zinn talks about in his book, The People's History, and then also whose voices are highlighted in the film, are also people that I painted. And also I painted a portrait of Howard Zinn for that very reason. And he was very helpful with me as I was working on my project. I mean, sometimes when I paint people, I would ask them, if you were doing what I'm doing, painting this series of portraits of people who've tried to insist that America live up to its own ideals, whom would you paint? And so I asked that question to Howard, and of course he came up with a lot of names, many of whom are in the film. And so the film is just extraordinary, grouping of the voices of people, workers, feminists, civil rights activists, people against child labor, environmental activists, people who have had the courage to speak out and demand, some measure of justice.
And it just takes one person to start that flow of conversation and change.
It certainly does. I mean, if people think that, and they, do rightly, that fear is contagious, courage is contagious too. And it often just takes one person to stop the running away and say, hey, wait a minute, we've got to face this, we've got to deal with it. And other people then are inspired to stand up too. I mean, usually one person doesn't change everything by themselves, they need to organize. But it's often the actions and the call of one person to an ideal, and that courage which can turn a whole movement. I mean, there are so many great examples of it in our history. I mean, think of Rosa Parks and then the Montgomery bus boycott, or a more contemporary example, a woman like Diane Wilson down in the shrimp boat captain in Texas, who, stood up to all those polluting industries and finally got that situation changed.
And they are just average people. They're just like me, who you just have to feel that you can't not speak out. And another thing that you've given us for this event, there are two other people that I hadn't been aware of before. Charlie Clements, who wrote a book called Witness to War.
Witness to War, yeah.
And they did a documentary film about him, which won an Academy Award.
That's right.
We'll also be showing that film that evening. And,
oh, wonderful.
And you painted a portrait of Charlie, and he will be here to be part of the discussion after the film. And we're hoping to encourage the audience to participate in talking about ways they've spoken out. The other person you've introduced me to and who will be here is Khalif Williams. Do you want to say a little bit about Khalif?
Sure. Could I say just a tiny bit about Charlie first?
Of course.
Okay. What makes his story so extraordinary is, he was a pilot in Vietnam who refused to fly after flying, I think it was 50 missions.
Yeah.
He realized what he was doing, and he said, I just can't do this anymore. And the Air Force actually put him in an insane asylum. They treated him like anybody who would refuse his orders, to do what he was being told to do had to be crazy. Of course, he thought it was just the other way around. But it gave him some time to think. And when he came out of there, he decided to become a doctor. And he ended up being a doctor in El Salvador for the FMLN, was fighting against the death squads and the Contras, and it was out of that experience that he wrote the book Witness to War.
And now he's the executive director of the Carr Center for Human Rights.
At JFK at Harvard, yeah.
I mean, And then Khalif. We only have a minute.
I'm
so-
sorry. Khalif Williams is the director of the Institute for Humane Education, which is based in Surrey, Maine, which is an extraordinary educational institute trying to teach teachers to teach in a different way,
Right.
to raise children who are actually engaged in making the world a better place rather than just learning a lot of facts.
So an incredible evening is in store for us, and you will be here.
I will be here, and I'll have a
And-
bunch of my paintings here.
Right, and some representatives from Veterans for Peace. And
Absolutely.
we're looking forward to a large audience to see these wonderful films and to talk after with all of you guiding us in the discussion. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for doing this. It is very important.
Back to you, Tom.